Welcome to IRL Studio Productions. The views and opinions expressed in this stream are those of the authors and speakers only and do not necessarily reflect the views of everyone involved with the IRL Studio or our general audience. The information we gather is for education and research purposes only.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on our inaugural Chris Hart program. We're really excited to have Chris on with us. She'll be with us every Saturday from 2 p.m. Eastern Time until 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm sure some of these shows will probably run longer because of the interesting content. Chris will be discussing and lots of interesting guests too in the future. We have all of our usual suspects with us on the panel today. We got DB, we got Kilroy, we got Lady Anon, Qbot, Rudy Toot, and Wyoming Grandma. And then we have ESAD and a couple other people out on the YouTube channel. Thanks for being out there for us, guys. Hey, DB, how you doing today? Would you be so kind to give us a proper introduction to our for our panelists and for our YouTube listeners for Chris here?
Well, my mate Chris Hart here is very experienced journalist from years and years of Fleet Street to where she is now, running a radio show, and she's working along different avenues, being self-employed. She's best to actually describe where she's been and what she's done herself, because it's such an idiosyncratic process that she's been through. It's been huge. She's one of the best journalists that's to come out of London for a long time, mainly because she's honest, which isn't a trait a lot of them have anymore. G'day, Chris.
Hi, how are you? Hello to everybody. So yeah, I'm ex Fleet Street, ex News of the World, ex The Sun. I also have my byline in Daily Mail, Sunday Times, Sunday Express, a few others, and I published twice. Once as a Sunday Times bestseller, and the other published with one Hodder and Stout on the other mainstream. And I've written a big blog, which is on our media, on the links between phone hacking and MI6. So my background before I became a journalist, I worked for the ex-MI6 agencies in London. So if anybody wants to ask me questions about that later, that's fine. So I thought maybe we'd just go over what's been happening lately, DB, and just, yeah, let's talk about it. A lot of stuff's been coming out lately about, you know, anti-Semitic stuff and people saying the Jews are taking over. Should we start from there? What's your opinion on that? Because I know you have a huge opinion on everything.
Yeah. But, you know, it's best to get it out there because you can learn when people put you right. Well, there is a Khazarian mafia, yeah. There's a certain, the deep state runs through everything. It's a black snake, and it's the ABC agencies are made of white hats and black hats, and a lot of people walking in the valley in between, you know, same as the Freemasons, same as all religions. And like Bill Cooper said, you know, when the doors are closed, it's a different story. They come from all backgrounds, Jews, Islamic, Christian, but when the doors are closed, it's a different story. They all follow a Luciferian doctrine.
Oh, I see. So you're saying that the Zionist Jews controlling Hollywood and the banking system are Luciferians, secretly Luciferian?
Yeah, but you don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist or a Zionist to be a Jew. You know, I mean, there's plenty of other Zionists out there. My personal view is stop. There's got to be a boundary. People are suffering. Sort it out, you idiots. It's only taken you a few thousand years. We've got a lot of shit in their plate. Sort it out. I know it sounds basic, but, you know, it's got to be done.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to my son about the world, and he was saying, you know, it's in a better state than it was, you know, around the time of the First World War. But I do feel that people are being squeezed, you know, not only the working class, the middle class, probably the upper classes. I'm talking about England, of course. You don't have them in other countries, but are feeling like very unhappy. You know, there's a lot of people on antidepressants. A lot of people are really unhappy with the way the world is. And I was I was listening to some various speakers on why it's like that, and is this world like a kind of, is it covered by a web? And if it is covered by a grey web, who is the spider? And different people have different opinions to who the spider is. But do you think there definitely is a spider?
Oh, yeah, there's a big bad spider, in my opinion. I mean, everybody, I don't know, everybody's got an opinion about something, but they're hitting close to the mark, a lot of people. And with your reference to the First World War, yeah, I mean, people were meat puppets so much more back then. They've woken a lot now and realised. But when you look at Alfred Nobel, he took the Bofors machining factory and turned it into the Bofors weapon factory, and he invented TNT. That guy has blown up more human beings than a lot. I don't, and the way they then threw humanity into the Second World War, and they've used them for Korea, and they use them for their own ends for Vietnam, and to a certain extent, Afghanistan. But the vets, with the Carlyle group poisoning them, and the Halliburton group using them for drug running, unbeknownst to them, and they've woken up to that now, and they're pissed. They're really angry, and you've got a really angry, useful, intelligent bunch of pissed off people there.
But do you think there's an otherworldly negative?
Yes.
That are.
Yeah, I myself, I see these two malevolent agents in it. There's draconian, what they call draconian influence, and there's the demonic influence. There's a Goetic type of element involved, and there's also one that doesn't answer, one that they can't get rid of it in exorcisms. And that evil is a lot more in play than people would realize or give credit to, because it's been put out there, lizard people and all this crap. And David Icke's brilliant in my opinion. I like his work a lot. I don't agree with him a lot on some points, but who's ever going to agree with everybody all the time? That's Adolf Hitler days. We've got our own minds.
Yeah, I get a little bit sick of listening to David Icke. He does go on, and as you know, I met David Icke. We met on the Isle of Wight and had lunch at the Priory Bay Hotel. It was a really nice experience, and yeah, I thought I would, be sort of like blown away because he's quite like a strong presence. He was nice, but I wasn't like super blown away or anything by him. So I was looking around for somebody else who talked in that way, who dished up that kind of thing, like what's wrong with the world and how do we really solve it, from a sort of high level. And I came across Alex Collier, and I know you know Alex Collier, but of course Alex Collier, and I know a lot of people don't like to hear things like, I spoke to the, who is it that Collier speaks to? Can you?
I think he's had contact with the Arcturians, he calls them. It all sounds a wee bit Star Trek. Yes, I agree. But I like Alex.
But you listen to this guy, and he's out there. He's on YouTube, and there's something about him that's really, really real. And you can see right in his eyes. You can see him speaking, especially the interview back in 1994. And he talks of a place where you can, like, people no longer have secrets. People have to be real with each other because you'll be able to hear each other's thoughts, and a place where you commune with God all the time, a place that doesn't have money. And actually I was in tears because where he was describing just seemed like somewhere beautiful to be, rather than here where it's not really beautiful. And even if you're having your own private time of wonderfulness, you can look over at these people or those people that aren't having that are suffering like quite really incredibly painful times. And the place he described seemed so much closer to God, and it was in a real way that I don't think you can dismiss Alex Collier and just think, oh, he's a nut, you know?
Oh, no. He came out, when he came out, it was putting your head on the block. You know, he came out. Peggy Kane was also putting out great info out there, and she got slammed. And Alex got slammed too. He used to work for the IRS, and he knows a lot of the things about the tax department in and out. So, you know, they didn't want him saying too much. And he came out with, I remember I posted an old video of him pointing out old black and white photos on the moon in different bases, and you know, it was a good interview, and he had a lot of good things to say, but he also even then acknowledged that he couldn't say too much regarding Aryans and regarding the moon, or he'll get smashed. And they hit him pretty hard financially. I haven't caught up with a lot of his work, but I knew that he'd been slammed pretty hard not long back. And I think all of us, I think even the people that are listening and a lot of folks out there, if you're on the path of the truth and you're nudging along and lifting up carpets and looking underneath, we're all getting slammed financially in some way. I don't know many rich people who are hunting for the truth. If they are, send bloody money.
I know, you know, I've been sort of scrabbling around for quite some time, and so I've written 3 books now, and I can't find an agent for them. So yeah, it's not great, is it, what we're doing? But I was listening to Alex last night, and he was talking about these different races that have been here before us, and and I'm looking through my notepad to try and find the names, because I was actually sleeping and then I heard it and I sort of pulled myself out of sleep because it's so interesting, the different races from the different stars. And he's not talking about your usual, you know, stuff that people come out with, which I hate hearing, and the different names they have, but just completely new names that I actually haven't heard before, you know, about these different, I mean, according to him, there's 3 types of these reptilian entities, and one type came here and they landed in I think North Africa, and the Lyrans, is it the Lyrans? They came also and landed, and they seeded the different, you know, whatever was here. And it really makes sense for the different races. I mean, we're all different, and they make out that it's about, oh, it's here and it's there, and it's because it's a hot country that, you know, we have black people, white people.
Darwinism was really involved. Darwin was pretty involved in the whole Freemason society too, and of course there's good Freemasons. It's like Mystics. I talked with him the other day about this. He's gone quite along on that path, and that guy's salted the earth. I mean, there is a lot of good Masons out there. There is the Crown and the Servant. Some will get into the Baphomet path after the 18th level, and some don't. That's another story. But you know, the whole lot of them are full of this. Me myself, I go along that path. I think David Icke's opened up a lot of eyes and ears. I remember when he was like talking to roomfuls of people, like 20 people in 1995, 96.
Oh yeah. He has, but I just think this, you know, this Alex guy has been, you know, completely ignored, really, and nobody's got him on their shows. I mean, as you know, I had the radio show with Revolution Radio, and everybody's forgotten him, really. But nobody's doing stuff about, you know, these different creatures that are actually causing us all this pain.
Well,
pardon?
I mean, everybody was talking Planet X and Nibiru, and they weren't really rationalizing it properly at the start. But, you know, if you look at the Earth when it was in its nursery, so to speak, and the sun, our sun, before it came out of its nursery, its gravity took with it another entity, so to speak, another planetary entity. And not in the same frequency range as this gravitational galaxy, but slightly out of frequency, so it can't really be seen by the naked eye. And it was dragged out by the sun accidentally, basically, and it was more progressed than this galaxy, of course, and the beings on it were. Again, they were transdimensional in appearance because they were out of frequency vibration with this frequency that reigns over this galaxy. Oh well, this planet. Let's talk that. So they arrived here and they used it for resources and science, and they created mining creatures, and it evolved into us. And so therefore they see it as their property and their creation. They see us, the Terrans, but it's just a spacesuit. They can't create the soul, and they're breaking high law because there is one God, and they've messed around with his rules a wee bit too often. So there is a situation with the frequency and vibration here that they don't get along with, and their appearance is stunted somewhat. Possession, vexation is a big thing, like demonics. But I mean, that's open to a lot of interpretation and a lot of maybe disbelief, belief, or not. With the scrolls that were found, the cylinder seals that were found in Samaria that speak of the Great Flood in the Book of Gilgamesh, 2,500 years before it was written about in the Bible. There's a lot to the Anunnaki seals that needs to be looked at, I think.
What Anunnaki seals? Excuse my ignorance.
There were cylinder seals, 29,000 of them found in Samaria, Iran, underneath the ground, I think 1929. And a lot of 29s there, isn't it? And when rolled along a piece of clay, they spell out cuneiform markings, which have been, translated by a few people. Zachariah Sitchin is one, but according to Arizona Wilder, he's part of the deep state. So I wouldn't put that past them too, because they grab information and they get it so they can control it as quick as possible. But anyway, that aside.
Sorry, I just missed what you mean. The Sumerian text, yeah.
Yeah, the Sumerians wrote in these texts of the Anunnaki was their name for them. Those who from the sky came, big tall beings. They weren't allowed to draw them in their true form. They gave them eagles' heads and all that. And they drew in metaphor as well, pine cone meaning genetic modulation, and the staff being the vessel that was going to be altered. Different things like that. You'll see the fleur-de-lune pattern around different things. It's a lot of it's involved in the mystery school symbology way back to then. This was way pre-Egyptian. I mean, according to some, so Nibiru, Planet X, the 9th planet, all that stuff. Yeah, it's on a 13,500 year elliptical orbit. It's not going to smash the Earth to rocks. And there are beings on it that are malevolent. Take it or leave it.
Didn't Mike Kaiser, I have Mike Kaiser, he's a biblical scholar, he came on one of my shows. He said that Sitchin has been debunked and it was nothing to do with the Anunnaki, the texts.
Yeah, but he's a Bible thumper. He's going to say that. They react the same way when you mention the dinosaurs. Sorry, I'm not against religious people, but people who come out and say, "Oh, it's been debunked." No, it's because it doesn't agree with their agenda, in my opinion.
Oh, I see. Interesting. Yeah. Because
it doesn't make it the truth. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, no. I see. He was talking about the Antideans and the Aldebarans. Have you heard those names before?
Yeah, the Aldebarans are who Maria Orsic was said to be in touch with the Tula Society in pre-World War I Germany. That Madame Blavatsky and all those guys were seriously into at the time. Germany was rife with occult physiology and interest. And in Germany, they called the occult just the soft sciences. It was another angle of frequency and vibration, which is a really healthy way to look at it. They're not big ghouly ghosts that go bump in the night or these things. They are transdimensional demonic entities. or for want of a better word, draconian entities. We're using words that metamorphosize them into our human existence, which really is the only realm we can chuck them into, basically, isn't it? Because we need to perceive them a certain way.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, Collier was saying, you know, the different aliens, like the Aldebarans, and you just mentioned that they were in contact with the Nazis, and then the others, such as some of the reptilians, like the Sikara, which came from Alpha Draconis, and they also colonized Earth, but a different part. So different bloodlines, and we're all supposed to mix in, and you're racist if you don't like a different race, but never mind, ignoring that. Don't you think that, I mean, I know Iran through that whistleblower, God, I can't remember his name now because I've been running around the park. What's that guy's name with the glasses? The whistleblower guy, not Assad. The other one.
Oh,
Snowden.
God. There we go. Snowden.
Yeah,
Snowden. So Snowden came out and he said that Iran released something where they said that they believed, well, it was in some secret papers, but they believed that the tall whites, so let's say that they came from Aldebaran, but the tall whites who were helping the Nazis, then they had a war. They wanted to wipe off all the Jews, basically. So wasn't that really to wipe off another bloodline that hosted certain, I believe it's reptilians, isn't it? Not being anti-Semitic. I'm just, you know, this is what it is, yeah?
No, yeah, really. I when that guy's trying to simplify it down to Iran and the tall whites, I can't see Snowden talking about that topic. And if he might have been hacked or something, because you know he what the tall whites, there are some around the Nevada desert by all accounts, way up high. Old weathermen working for the Air Force have met them and interacted with them, but they're just there. They're most probably avoiding being alien bait. So, you know, there is apparently a lot of species, according to the old late Phil Schneider. There was about 9 malevolent ones, and a few of them see as a bag of food, not for your blood and bones. Oh, well, not for your meat and bones, but for the adrenal chrome that you can provide them. And like any certain, you know, and if you're going to go along the lines of they created this vessel that we walk in, and they consider it their property and their creation, they're going to engineer and farm you that way. Some will look at it like that.
And do you think how are we being engineered and farmed?
Well, I think, personally myself, I think our possible lifespan is being stilted in a huge way. I think you can look at what slowly now. Look, one thing we've got to hold up is the good side is winning now, and this isn't just politically and not just through America and the rug that's being flicked through the world now in a 3D level. And wise people will feel this and know this, and they'll see it politically happening, and they'll look behind the scenes of what's happening politically and see the reason for it. And a lot of people on Discord and that follow the Q movement will know this. But it's on all levels. And without being a space cadet about it, there's all dimensions and there's all levels. And this is a one really, really massive force that's evicting the crap. There's going to be more honesty. There's going to be more transparency in everything. Your life, I think, you know, there's new health things being released every week. You know, quite big news, anti-cancer news, longevity news. It's not long before, you know, they really ramp that up. I think everything's really positive for the planet, in my opinion.
But the Snowden thing, it definitely wasn't. He wasn't hacked because it went out. What he found out basically it was on these papers that is what that is what Iran thought. They believed that the tall whites were controlling Nazi Germany, and they believed that they skipped over to America. And as you know, America, they're trying to have that. They've got Stephen Greer trying to get the disclosures about all this, because there's been a lot of really powerful military men, including that Paul Hellyer guy, that Canadian minister, coming out and saying we should have disclosure about what the shadow government are doing with these beings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I remember Alfred Weber.
From one to another, haven't they? And really, that World War II was an alien wars. They were trying to get rid of the Jewish bloodline, because the Jewish bloodline hosts a certain type of reptilian. So they decided to wipe them off the earth. So really, this place is a bit of a battleground, with us being used as like donkeys, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's a sort of it wasn't just about wiping out the Jews, and the Jews carry a Draco high DNA content of Draco DNA. There were a series of bloodlines led out through Europe hundreds and hundreds of years ago. They're mainly sitting in royalty seats now and high political things. Look at Boris Johnson just coming out. I remember in a documentary he was saying he's related to Charlemagne. He was so's Al Gore. So big deal. That a lot of them are. And so yeah, I agree with you, but I don't agree with you. The whole Nazi thing and the Maria Orsic and Aldebaran thing, she wrote in 3 languages. She wrote in a hidden Templar language, all the the specs and everything for the Hannibal spacecraft. She wrote it down. She wrote it in 3 different languages. One of them was hidden. So it wasn't a joke, and it wasn't a novelty story put out there by people. But what happened is they said there was a schism between the Tula Society and the Nazis around about the end of the war, or towards the end of the war. They didn't really go with the whole Jew thing. They were more into just controlling and opening up a gate, some sort of wormhole. So, there's a lot of conjecture about it.
Do you think possibly that there wasn't a Holocaust?
Yeah, I believe there was.
You think that there was?
Yeah, definitely. I think 6 million might even be conservative. And I was just reading about a female Indian agent that went over. She was the only translator and wireless operator in Germany at the time, undercover. And they got her, and they executed 4 women. Eventually, she was locked up in Gestapo headquarters. And, I followed the story of the dog that kicked her to death before he shot her in the head, the SS officer, and he was hung after Nuremberg. But, I mean, these dirty subhumans were just Draco taxis, mate. They were full of such evil intent. They were taken over by something other than the human spirit. No human is that evil to another human. I mean, they are in history. Just look at it. But, you've got to look at that and shake your head. Same as these serial killer mongrels, mate.
Yeah, do you think so? But then if they were...
You're not part of my race. Sorry. You there, mate? Oh, no. Don't tell me your mic's gone.
No, it's some kind of weird thing came up on my screen and wouldn't let me speak. But there must be something in it, because literally they were promoting the blonde-haired, blue-eyed race supremacy. And haven't we heard that the aliens from that area are this blonde, blue-eyed? And so wouldn't it make sense that they wanted to get rid of this other... wouldn't it make more sense that they wanted to wipe off the face of the earth a certain bloodline, right?
Yeah, right. I can see that.
You're wrong.
Yeah, but I can see that. But there was. Yeah, look, I'm not totally disagreeing that's a concept of it. But I just don't think at that stage that it was just down to the Jewish bloodline carrying certain homogenized lines, if you know what I mean. Because the Anunnaki had been on the planet for eons before that, and the bloodlines have been out, and they'd been mixed well and truly before the Jews. So
yeah, it just strikes me as weird, that whole thing of that Second World War, and what it was actually about. And then of course all the Nazis went over to America through Project Paperclip.
Yeah, well, they brought heaps. So they brought MK agents over. They brought mainly the space because they wanted to win this. They were freaking out, and there was a grab bag going between the propulsion scientists between Russia and America, and they gave passes. It was on their filings say, Werner von Braun is an ardent Nazi. They just put the word "not" in front of it, and before you know, Werner von Braun's sitting there, the boss of NASA, and Kurt Debus is there, and the whole bunch of them are there. And they're having parties at Jack Parsons' place in Pasadena. There were at the time when they first came over, and Manhattan Project, and they were Auto Templi Orientis parties. Aleister Crowley stuff.
Yeah, it's all quite interesting. So yeah, I would recommend people to try and listen to Collier anyway. See, it's just strange that we live our lives and we don't sort of acknowledge their existence mostly. It's weird, isn't it? And so why is it this massive secret? And that even, I was criticized on my channel for talking about the greys, and which the greys are just constructs. And somebody said, oh, well, you haven't had your own experience. But I did have an experience when I was investigating MK Ultra and mind control, and I contacted that Colonel Michael Aquino, works for the American military, and literally I just sent him an email, and I was, once I'd made contact and there was a bit of back and fro, he astrally abducted me, like just pulled me out of my body when I tried to go to sleep. And that went on for a whole week, and I actually had to get help for it because I was terrified that it was like an episode of X-Files. I thought that I would be stuck like that. And I remember even seeing an episode of X-Files where there was a guy who was abducted, and he wouldn't stop being abducted, and he wanted to kill himself because it was so horrible. And I can actually relate to that because it is really horrible. You sort of go to as if you're going to go to sleep, and literally your consciousness is yanked away from you, so you don't have control of it. But it's like they take you where they want to go, seeing what they want you to see, and it's not nice stuff, it's ugly stuff. And it was horrific. And you're not sleeping, literally you're not sleeping, and you can come back to your body, but you still got the sort of scent of it around you, and then you sort of try and get to sleep again, and it's there, and they just take you. As soon as you drop that consciousness, they sort of yank you, and so they keep you awake. So it's horrible. And it went on for a week, and I felt weird that I could walk around during the day, that I had the energy. I remember thinking, I can't go up to London this week because I haven't slept for 3 days. But I did go up to, I thought it's weird, I'm not tired, because my body was getting sleep, but my head, there was no cut-off point, and it was terrifying, and I thought I wouldn't get out of it, but I got some help from somebody and got out of it. But the last, sort of almost like a last calling card, the last abduction was with greys. So I think they are definitely using them for something,
Yeah. Well, Aquino cut his teeth in Vietnam on the Project Phoenix stuff, and that was undocumented, like hideous torture, man. But he'd lost his soul well before then. He just hammered it home in that era, and he came back, and he's just truly dark. And you were involved in the programs when you were a kid, mate, and so they would have been able to keep track of you in that sort of context. What's oh yeah, with Alex Collier, I remember him talking and saying that the actual real greys there's not very many of them left, maybe 2,000 or 3,000. But yeah, anyway, getting back to Aquino and the mind control. Yeah, well, from what I've heard, they're biosyntheoid puppets. They have no bellies, no genetics, no genitalia. They ingest food or sustenance through the skin and exude it through the skin, so they stink. And they can be piloted by a linked pilot, so a little bit like the Montauk chair, where they can drive these entities. If you're going to get something to actually do linear miles or linear time and space as a service droid for you, it's going to have pretty big eyes, not very big ears, very light limbs, and no real stomach problems, is it? So it sort of makes sense to a certain degree. But I think a lot of these things can be driven by scientists and doctors, and they're present at abductions in my labs, yeah.
Yeah, can you explain to the listener what the projects that Aquino was involved in, what he kindly did and what that was about?
Well, he was involved in Project Phoenix, and he's a Satanist, basically. He was involved with Anton LaVey on a personal level, and brought that into the military to the state where he was accredited as a padre of Satanism within the army. I mean, he knows that the energy that's behind it all, and he just knows the frequency and methods to be able to get it. He uses technology, light and colors a lot. He, dating back to the days when actual physical torture and in real time was used for MK, as opposed to a lot of drug and trauma-induced hypnotism now. He's pure beer scat. His soul is just a dirty, dark blob, mate. And he sounds like he was having a good crack at you. Didn't sound like it worked though, or else you're not on here. You wouldn't be on here, frankly. Hey, with this Russian stuff, Chris.
Oh, one sec. Sorry. Yeah, I just want to finish off that for people that don't understand it, and then we'll move to Russia. I got help. He was torturing me at one point, and this cigar-shaped ship came above us and tasered him. And he was saying, "Who are you? Who are you?" And I said, "I don't know, but it might have something to do with that." And it came out and tasered him. So literally dropped me. And it was after that I didn't get touched by him, but he did come back, do a few curtain calls, I mean, did the military create him? Did they, or was he like that and they picked him up?
Well, I think he might have been one of these, he might have been in a program himself, and he might have been, top of the class, dark little, what was that kid with the sixes on his head in The Omen? We found out Damien. He's got the eyebrows for it, isn't he? I mean, look, a lot of people have talked about visits from him, and a lot of people have got a lot to say about him. The fact is, he's going to find out exactly what they all find out, basically. When they walk through the door, it's not all surprise balloon and parties. Not for them, anyway.
Yeah, it was quite interesting. I mean, I did want to interview him, and I could have interviewed him. He agreed to come on my show, and then I was trolled really quite badly. And I thought, this isn't worth it. They will go, "Oh yeah, you will love him. Yeah, you satanic luster," and all this kind of. And I thought, what? It's not worth it. But now I feel quite angry about that. And a lot of these people that do that are demonically charged, and they think they're on the side of good, but actually they're demonically charged. I wanted to confront him on air about the Monarch programs, about everything. And, you know, I was stopped doing it. Somebody said, oh, Miles Johnson should do it. I passed... Johnson has since lied to me and said, oh, you passed me his home phone number. I didn't have this guy's phone number, not home phone number, not ever. And he certainly wasn't a friend, a buddy, and all that. That again, lies, you know. And Johnson interviewed him, and it was, the interview was worthless. Completely didn't confront him about anything.
Yeah, but mate, don't worry about you. You are going to get, and you do get inundated with trolls and hasslers and all that. But you've got to really stand back and look. You've paid your dues. You've been there, done it. We're involved and have the track record to prove it. There's a lot of people around, you know, they have done this and they were with this and they were involved with this. There's no paperwork, there's no paper trail, but they know everything. And, oh, shit, they're such experts. But really, they're just LARPers, mate. They're LARPers. And, hey, if people want to join their LARP and endorse it, get stuck in. But we deal with the truth here. And I don't hang with idiots either. And you're my mate, and I know for a fact that you're straight up about everything you've said and the whole course of what you've done. Get them to hang out with the IRA, work on Fleet Street, try and do and understand things and actually put pen to paper and get published and printed and friggin' employed. So I'm just sick of the keyboard warriors running around saying this and that. Sure, they can have opinions, and it's all part of trying to add info into the big picture if they treat it healthily like that. But, you know, turn and face the enemy, not each other. All these people are hanging out, attacking each other and trying to debunk and discredit. And, you know, some of the crap you got for Max Spears was just ridiculous. You know, take a good long look at yourselves, the asswipes out there that did it, because you're really not progressing, kicking the ball down the road with anything concerning Max. You're just hanging around like flies around you know. So, you know, there's a lot to Max's story. I reckon a lot more will come out of it, you know, and rest in peace, Max.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Miles accused me of murdering him or having, because, oh, you worked for MI6 before you had something to do with his death. You know, the guy was my friend. He'd come on my show, and, you know, it was hurtful. And that still carried on afterwards. You know, a lot of people trying to get me out of that sort of, you know, to sort of not make sure nobody listens to me. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, they've wanted to shut you down for ages. The deep state have wanted to shut you down too. I mean, look, you interviewed Litvinenko, right? You did that story. You've covered that. What's the correlation you find now between? Well, I believe these two guys. I think it's a setup myself. I've got my whole conspiracy theory about the Novichok stuff. But what do you think, mate?
Yeah, for sure it is. I mean, did you see our journalist that I know, by the way? Oh God, I forgot, Kirsty Walk. And I was supposed to go on there to talk about the IRA one time, so I spoke to her over the phone. She's well respected over here, and the editor on Russian Today hung up on her. That was quite funny. It's on the net if anybody wants to.
Yeah, I've got that there. I'll quickly read out the story if you like. I'll just start. Questioning the journalists about an extraordinary interview with the men suspected of poisoning the scruples with Novichok, in which they claimed they were simply visiting Salisbury for its tourist attractions. The cathedral is famous for its 123-metre spire, they informed her. Presenter Christy Walk asked if she believed the story. As far as the story goes, I don't have any reasons to believe them, but I have no more reasons to believe the secret services who have been lying previously, Simonian said. When she was pushed on the manner of the interview fed into the view of RT as propaganda tool for the Russian state, that old chestnut, they've been throwing it around for years, of course it is. Everybody knows. Simonian responded that she made the interviewees feel uncomfortable, and concluded, your question to me seems like typical Western propaganda. As Walk tried to ask her one final question about the footage of the two men, Simonian continued, saying her interview with them was nothing like what you're saying it was, nothing like that. Thank you very much. She then promptly hung up. This woman, what's her name? The interviewer, Christy Walk. What's she like?
Oh, she's nice, actually. Yeah. I was supposed to go and they talk about the real IRA one time after they'd done a bomb. I think they bombed the BBC.
They do.
I know I was in Belfast and they weren't going to pay for the flight back, which is bizarre. So they got somebody else. But yeah, she's nice. She's well respected and well liked. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, it was weird to see that actually. I don't know if I believe that she's a tool of the state. I just think she was following orders from her editors, you know?
On the nail, mate.
Yeah, sure. Which brings us round to that TV series that you told me to watch, and I watched the other day about the state's involvement with the government, the press.
Oh, yeah, it's called Press. I've only watched the first episode. I thought it was good. What do you think?
Well, yeah, it was weird. I mean, I wrote a book which is on Amazon. Actually, it's a bit messy because I couldn't find a publisher. How Nick Davies hired me to spy on my former colleagues at the News of the World. It's that long a title. But it had all about what went on inside a tabloid. And obviously on this drama series starring Ben Chapman, it's set somewhere that's supposed to be either the Sun or the News of the World. I've worked on both.
Oh, we lost you, bud.
I know, something keeps happening there. So I worked on both over a period of 20 years. Sun was the last one. And it very much is that. I mean, the Ben Chapman is really very much like Greg Miskew, who was my boss and personal friend as well. And just that sort of, you know, coldness and the fact that you do set out to ruin lives, although I didn't personally, because I'd had my life ruined by tabloids before I entered Fleet Street. But there's a lot of journalists that were in there that were quite sadistic. And I have to say, Greg Miskew was awful. He did enjoy, they called him the Rottweiler, and he did enjoy the kill, as it's called. And it is called the kill when you kind of gather stuff and then go to kind of confront somebody and say, well, the story's going to run. And we were quite ruthless with the other papers. Like, you know, in that series, there's a posh paper across the road, and the posh paper gets it all not very well, and the harder kick-ass paper gets it all the time. But we used to, if ever one of the posher papers got somebody, you know, like a witness for something and had them in hiding, we would use all manner of blag to get to the hotel. And one time actually told somebody, oh, your wife's sick, you know, and rang their news desk. I think it was a man on Sunday, and said, oh, his wife's ill, trying to get hold of him. I'm his sister's wife. Where is he? Which hotel is he in? You know, the journalist that was minding the subject of the story. And they would, of course, tell us, because they're also lovely, dovely. And they would say, oh, he's at the Northern Star. He's minding somebody on the story. And we would go, oh, okay. Then we would go over there, call down the journalist to the reception on some pretext. Then we would go up and kidnap the guy through the story and take him away with the car. It was that bad. Things were that bad.
Oh, man. I got somebody's phone number once because I told them somebody, their cat had died. I still feel bad about it.
I know, it's horrid. But I mean, that was the way it was. I mean, there's so many. I remember once there was this journalist, two horrible stories. There was one where Liam, who's that guy? Who's the singers in Oasis?
Oh, the two brothers. Jeez. God, don't worry. My brain's at half-mast. It's 4:49 a.m. here in Sydney. Sorry?
Sorry, Noel. It was Noel. Noel.
The Gallagher boys.
Gallagher. It might have been Liam. I can't remember. But one of them had a love child with a, look at me, love child. Who's a child, and they went together. It was a black girl, and he was paying for her. He was paying for the child to get a private education, and we had found out, but we knew her second name, but we didn't know the name of the child. So we wanted to find out the name of the child and how old the child was. So they sent me down to this little posh school in Kensington with a task, find out. And you would always get like shouted at 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock. Get out of bed. Got an effing job. Get out. What are you doing? Sleeping. You know, like it was a job where 7 you would work and you'd be on call at any time. You'd have your bleep and you would be bleeped. And so it was like being a bloody doctor, but sort of a vicious doctor. And so they sent me on this job and I was sitting there thinking, well, how do I do this? I'm not going to go in the school. And they said, just blag them, find a way to blag them. So
We're a big sign around your neck saying Oasis sucks.
So I couldn't figure, and all the kids were in this little posh school. And next thing, Greg rang me, the news editor, and he said, don't worry, we're calling in the SAS. And they used the SAS, they used a serving SAS to do stuff. Anyway, this SAS guy came pacing down the street. He just nodded at me, didn't even bloody say hello. He must have known who I was. They must have described me. And then
Captain Fantastic.
He said, follow me. So I followed him through the corridors. He walked right up to outside the head's office, and there were the pupils' names, and he took one look, and he started pulling the papers off the wall, and all the teachers and heads came out and looking at him. I was like, oh my God. And he just grabbed them all, stuffed them in his jacket and walked out. I followed him and quickly made my exit. But that story made it. And then there was another story where Mazza Mahmood, who I work with, got wanted to know if Martina McCutcheon, who was this story hasn't come out yet, but I have told it to people, but it's not come out yet. It's not funny, it's horrible. I don't know why I'm laughing. Martina McCutcheon, who was a famous soap star, and she was actually in that, is it Love Actually with Hugh Grant? She's got dark hair. And she was going out with another actor and had a pregnancy termination. And she had told her driver. Now, the driver was under the payroll of Mazza Mahmood. And so Mazza rang and said, is there any way you can find out from this clinic about her abortion? And I said, well, no, not really. And he said, oh, don't worry, I'll do it another way. And I said, what way? And he said, well, we'll just blackmail silly tart. Anyway, I said, well, what do you mean? And he wouldn't tell me. But then the next day, front page of the newspaper, Martina McCutcheon, my baby loss or had a miscarriage, and how so he blackmailed her to give the story, but to say it was a miscarriage rather than an abortion. That kind of shocked me, really, you know.
Oh yeah. Look, I just quickly going on the situation of Brian Harvey. I mean, he's a scrapping wee bumblebee about this. Oh, Brian, he's having a fair crack at them, and I hope that you and him aren't having too much of a row and join forces again, because I like the two of yous having a yarn. And if Brian does get to listen to this, hey Brian, we all like you, mate. Have a yarn to Christine, and don't worry about all the woo-woo MK stuff. We'll keep that to ourselves.
I think that was hacked off because me and he, people liked us on air, and they enjoyed listening to the chat. And I do, he rang me obviously off air. We were friends off air, and I had a friendship with him. And I felt sad when he just blocked me out of the blue, and I appeared on his wall. He said, when I did a sort of a show, it was a bit of a skit. He said, "Oh, Chris, I didn't mean it. I just put you up there because you're part of it." But it did hurt me that I seemed to go from just a person, from a friend. I lost his friendship, and I do. He said, "Oh, I'm all right with you, but I'm still blocked." So, and he doesn't ring me. So obviously I'm not. And I think that's hacked off. And about what's going on at the moment. Hacked Off has, approached me ages ago, and I had got the sack from the Sun, and the Sun had in 2009, the Sun, a guy called Nick Parker. Now, I'm the investigator. I was a newspaper's investigator. I was a newspaper's investigator, the News of the World, before I brought in John Boyle and they started the hacking nonsense because I was getting tired. So I became Sun's investigator, and so I was the one who did the investigations. But this reporter, Nick Parker, got up himself a bit, and the tip was that Heather Mills was getting like 100 grand, 200 grand for charity talks and keeping the money, but saying, oh, I'm giving it to charity. Now, if I was given that job to do, I would merely, pretend to be a charity or whatever and do it all over the phone. And you could do that job in a couple of phone calls. But no, Nick Parker thought he was James Bond. He tried to do it, and he started sending Heather all these weird messages saying he was a doctor. And I know she got angry because the emails had News International on them. And then he threw me this bloody, I didn't have anything to do with the job. He flew me this mobile and said, oh, she's going to talk to you. You pretend to be this Sheila Hancock woman or whatever that he had made out he was. So I got the phone. I thought, I'm not gonna really do this. She knew who the jig was up. Mazza Mahmood from the News of the World had rang this fake mobile. Well, it's not fake, a dummy mobile, an anonymous mobile. He had rung, and I heard his voice. So obviously she had rung the News of the World and said, what is it you doing this gag on me? And he had rung the number, and I recognized his voice, and he recognized my voice. And I said to Nick Parker, I'm going to dump the mobile. It's blown. And he said, no, don't be stupid. No, how could it be Mazza rung you? The guy's an idiot. And he kept his job, by the way. And then
ridiculous.
Yeah, he's sleaze. And then he said to me, Heather Mills had a go at me for half an hour. I tried to calm her down. I said, the papers are attacking you. They attacked Yoko. Don't take it for granted. My life had been destroyed by the newspapers when I was 23, and I couldn't tell her about that because she said, well, how do you mean then? What happened to you? So I didn't want to say because I didn't want, because she said, I'm going to call the cops on you. So she said, how will you enjoy your prison cell and all this stuff? Anyway, she put it on her website. And then when Nick Parker seen it, he said, oh, you can't work for us anymore. Rebecca says you've got to go. Rebecca Brooks says you've got to go because everyone's going to hear your voice and we're not supposed to be using investigators like you. And I said, well, I'm a journalist. I haven't been a private investigator for years. And he was going, well, people think you're like that, so we've got to let you go. And actually now, talking to the Sun's lawyers, I think he made it all up. I think he blamed the whole jig on me, basically,
Oh, mate, look, everybody that knows that you were just being a good trooper. You Weldon Boyle, he was a Trojan horse. You didn't know they had a gut full of spiders' eggs, and then when it broke out, the final go for them was when you got on the phone to McCartney and was actually a decent human being and had integrity as a journalist with her, and they couldn't have you in the ranks, mate, because you weren't crooked. So, boom, wear it as a badge of honor. I'd say those people are skunks, alleged skunks.
They are weird, but I'm in a weird position at the moment because Hack Toff came to me and said, oh, did you do anything illegal for the Sun? And I said, no, I didn't do anything illegal. And then they started saying, oh, well, we'll give you 25 grand if you say you did, and all this sort of crap. And, Graham Johnson was like, oh, I'm going to tape you, and now you say this, and all this. So I turned down the money. I realized, I did think, oh, maybe I should do this. But, you shouldn't be. No matter how much you might think, oh, the son of bastards, they sacked me. You really can't do that kind of thing. And so I thought, well, I'm not going to do it. And, of course, they went ahead without me anyway. It's quite funny. And they've launched this massive attack on the Sun, which is raging at the High Court right now. They're trying to get $1 million for Elton John, $1 million for Liz Hurtley, all on my back, all on the fact that I supposedly spied on them when they were in the private. Supposedly rang up being a psychiatrist, but I never be a psychiatrist. I didn't do that. It's funny, isn't it?
Well, it's typical deep state shenanigans, mate. They are running around like every aspect of them, the Hollywood aspect, the occult side of it, the political side of it, the banking side of it. Oh, they are freaking out, and a lot of the comms are down.
But what I don't understand,
and it's blowing out like a steam engine at all facets. And what I think they were trying to do was set you up as a patsy. And you went, yeah, okay, right, bye, see you. And then you went, nah. And they got really venomous, as they do. Broke into your house, stole your laptops and all your camera equipment.
But
You
this,
threatened,
yeah,
you
exactly.
threatened to beat you and threatened you and to beat you and your child up.
They broke, yeah, they broke in. When I wasn't doing a deal, Hugh Grant had paid for me to have this luxurious house. It was gorgeous. It was on the river. It was on the river and absolutely beautiful, and a boat there and everything. And and then they got me there because it was isolated, and then they robbed me, and then they're like, Graham Johnson was like, oh, just think yourself lucky you and your son didn't get a kick in. I mean, it's disgusting, I mean, sorry, I'm just really angry for a minute.
Any man that was threatening somebody's kid.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah.
Exactly. And then I couldn't believe it. Then Greg Miskew, who's on their payroll, and they got the phone hacker on their payroll. Hacked Off, supposed to be all against hacking. They got them on the payroll. And Greg Miskew rang me. I hadn't heard from him in ages. He rang me out. He insulted the shit out of me. He insulted the shit because I'd written in a book he had had a love affair. I thought it was at the time. And he said to me, oh, you were just a drunken fumble when I was pissed out of my head. And, that's not really the way to get someone to do what you want. And then he said to me, forgetting that he actually wasn't running a newspaper and I wasn't his underling anymore, he goes, just give all your paperwork to Hacked Off, yeah? Just do it. I couldn't believe it, I got a friend of mine to ring him up and say, back off, you piece of shit. Sorry, I'm really quite angry about the whole scenario. But the court case is going on, and it's just a farce. You've got this Hollywood lawyer calling me a data thief. That's a lie. And I've told him that it's a lie. But I'm sure he's going to go back into court right now and call me a data thief, even though he knows it's a lie. And they're trying to get all these millions for Elton John. Hasn't Elton John got enough money? And Liz Hurley and Lily Allen. I mean, who is she? Who is Lily Allen? She's the daughter of an actor at the end of the day. And wants another million. And it's all based on that I was supposed to have done this, but I didn't do that. But I'm just wondering what's going to happen to me at the end of it. Am I going to get bumped off,
Nah, you'll be right, mate. All those corporate, Lily Allen and all those types, they're just a corporate facade backed up by a lot of people making cash. And the sad thing is the person up front knows it. So,
But when they don't get their money, when I stop them getting their millions, they're going to come for me. They're not just going to go, oh, well, Christine stopped us getting millions. They're going to come for me. I know that.
You'll be right, mate. The more we talk, the more we get it out there, the safer you are. Hey, I just want to say...
They're a mafia. They're a mafia. They're an absolute mafia. They're an Evan Harris, MP, Graham Johnson, Hugh Grant, David Sherlock, they're a mafia. And yeah, my life is in danger. When they don't get their money, and they won't get their money, they will no doubt come for me and bump me off.
I think winds of change are going to be biting at their ankles a little bit too much for them to worry about that, mate. Things are going hell in a handbasket for that side of the argument at the moment.
What I don't understand, Russell, what I don't understand is it seems to be Hollywood versus Murdoch trying to get millions out, but surely Murdoch and Hollywood, they're the same side, right?
Nah, things change. Murdoch's been doing work on behalf of Trump on the QT. He's been flipped to a certain degree.
Oh, I see. So that fight is to take all the money off him. It's punishment, is it?
Oh, yeah, you don't leave the fold, mate, and not get attacked. I'll quickly got to say a big hi to Me6. You're not here, though. I can't see your name, Me6. Hope you're all well, mate, and you're traveling well. We've got to hear from you, and big shout out to you from everyone here. You've got to meet Me6, Christine. He's awesome.
Why is he called Sex?
Sorry, buddy?
Why is he called Sex?
No, he's called Me6.
Oh, Six, okay. So that's interesting. So Murdoch now is not alongside with, well, that makes sense because they're fighting each other. The court case resumes in October. So it's weird because the Hollywood elite, led by David Sherlock, the Hugh Grant's barrister, saying to journalists, one of them is an ex-boyfriend of my guy Patrick, they're saying to them, how come you asked help from Christine Hart on a job? Now, I'm a frigging damn journalist. I mean, I went out there and went face to face with the real IRA. I'm not a private investigator. I haven't been a private investigator for years and years, you know? So they're like, oh, if they're going to say to them, bringing them into court, and they're going to say, if you rang me for help, that means you did something illegal and you didn't reveal it in Levinson. But I was a journalist. I was assisting them quite innocently on quite innocent jobs about footballers and stuff like that. You know, it's just talk about a smear job. Talk about a smear job, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, people don't get burnt. People have seen that TV show Burned about the ex-spook. It's not like that. All of a sudden, you don't end up flat on your back on a beach. Like you, it's a gradual process of making a pariah out of some person, both professionally and personally, and also making them doubt themselves till they're ostracizing themselves almost. And it's insidious.
I know. I felt that because literally I've been blacklisted through, you know, the old spook business, so I can't work there, and been blacklisted with newspapers, I can't work there. And when I try and sell my stories, the editors are like, I mean, they'll take them if it's a massive story, but you know, more than likely they, you know, more often than not, sorry, they just take them, you know, they steal them because, you know, they know who I am. I have to say who I am because then they know it's a decent story because I've got a good reputation, but they, you know, they don't like dealing with me because of the current court case, you know. I mean, I spoke to Matt Bell from The Sun on Sunday. He was like, oh, Chris, it's you. Let's go for dinner. You know, let's meet up. Let's have dinner. And then I suppose he spoke to somebody and, you know, somebody tipped him off about I was persona non grata. And it's quite hard just to be pushed out. And then you get, you know, the people that you go in the alt media world and then you get attacked quite badly in that, you know, in that world. You know, even that.
Oh yeah, it's like a bloody pinball, mate. It's like a pinball game. I mean, I can't. Of course, I can empathise with this situation, and I know it, and we've talked a bit about it. But yeah, they made a pinata out of you, and
Yes,
but you're tough enough, mate. You're tough enough. A pinata is one of those American things they hang.
I feel like a pinata,
and they beat the living crap out of it.
I feel like a pinata. But you know, I've had it done on me before. That you know, I was writing to a serial killer. I thought there was something odd about, you know, is Ian Brady the Moors murderer? I thought I was goddamn 13. I thought there was something odd about it. He was adopted. I was adopted. He got chucked out of his adoption home, and I thought, I just looked at his face. 25 years old. I thought, did you really kill children just for the fun of it? And not only that, not only those murders. He invited a 17-year-old boy, man, whatever, back to his flat. He was 25, and he proceeded to axe him to death. He chopped him up, basically. And I thought, why would a 25-year-old want to do that? And I looked in his eyes, and I thought, something funny has gone on here. And so I wrote to Brady, and I sent a picture. And, of course, I was fairly young, and I got an invite. So when I was 21, went to see him, and next thing, the press got hold of me, and it was how I got into the press. And basically, they said to me, oh, you know, you grew up in an orphanage, Catholic orphanage, whatever. And I said, yeah, I wondered why I wrote to Brady, why I was so interested in him. I thought, you know, maybe he's my sort of father because, but this is only one of the thoughts. I just wondered why I was so, you know, had to go and see him. But really looking back, it was because I know something went on there. But I was trying to find out, I was trying to give this, you know, the national press was sat there, they'd scoop me up, they put me in a hotel, and they were, why have your own show? And of course I didn't really know, you know, and I was like, well, it might have been, you know, I was told my real father was a criminal. I said it might be, you know, it might have been him. It crossed my mind because he came from where I came from, but that was only like for a few weeks. And they were like, oh, that's great. And so they went with that and called me the devil's daughter. And they pasted me across the front pages of Sunday People. It went on for 2 weeks. They didn't pay me anything for it. They put me on the TV. And when you've had your life ruined like that, when you've had your friends spit at you in the street and just being hated and people thinking you're the blood of a serial killer, or that you claim to be, which I most certainly didn't, but they wrote it that way. They said Phil Hall, who later then became my boyfriend, and I worked for him at the News of the World. He was the overall editor, and he used to meet up with Tony Blair and everything. Like in that program I was telling you, Press, they had the guy meeting with the Prime Minister. Phil Hall used to meet with the Prime Minister. But when he first met me, he was working for the People, and he wrote, that I claimed to be Brady's daughter. And he said, well, I'm going to write it that way, Christine, because we all know it's not true, but then it won't come back on me because it'll be you said it. And I dated him for ages after that, and he taught me how to file copy. And that's how I went into Fleet Street, through him, really. And then when I worked at the News of the World, he was above Greg Miskio. So he had a lot of influence in my life. But it's interesting, that TV series about how they mix with the people in control. I mean, Rebecca Brooks, and all of them meet with Blair. They were in with the rulers, of course. And every story that went in the newspaper was looked over for the political content. I used to become quite good at sliding stories in, like because I wanted to write a book on the real IRA, because I wanted to get close to the real IRA to do that, I used to have to twist them to get them in the newspaper, and I become good at doing that. But everything was propaganda. Everything had to fit the political rhetoric at the time,
Yeah. There's some equivalent of what we are, or it's all the bad and good things that make us up to what we are. They tried to throw you around like a page 3 girl, and then they realized you got more substance, and you ended up working for the same very people that tried to treat you like a piece of meat. So if that isn't ratification of your intelligence and integrity, I don't know what is.
They did try and do the page 3 girl. How did you know that? They actually said to me, oh, you make good page 3 girl, why don't you go down there and just... I did pictures as well. I did actual raunchy pictures. They did try and do the page 3 girl bit.
Yeah, sure. You got to throw that around, But, yeah, mate, you've got higher things to attain, higher levels to attain, and your curiosity is for a reason. Everyone's is. Everyone listening here. It's no accident that they're listening. It's no accident that they think the way they do. It's no accident that they see serious flaws in what's going on. Now it's like 100 monkeys dancing, and it's a really, really good time to be alive. Don't worry about these evil, fat, carpet-strolling creeps, alleged. They're nothing. They're fading away into their own dust. The deep state, look, you're sitting on one of the fortresses of the deep state in London. There's Fortress London that controls Fleet Street, and you were in the mechanics of it, that control Fleet Street and the banking. There's Washington, D.C. that controls the armaments and the military deep state, and of course Vatican City that controls the spiritual little gold mine there, and that's under attack. A lot of things are under attack at the moment. Look, Benjamin Fulford can be a wee bit far-fetched sometimes, but I sometimes follow what he says, and he's got some writing here I want to read out that, in my opinion, loosely actually covers a lot of things that are happening here. There's three paragraphs. I just want to read through a few of them that is an overall idea of what's happening with the world, and get your opinion on it. I'll just start here.
Okay.
Once I hit my push to talk. A pandemic scare is looming as airplanes in multiple countries are reported to be full of diseased people are landing and being put in quarantine. However, Defence Intelligence Agency sources say the incidents all appear to be fake ones and involving crisis actors. The pandemic scare comes at the execution of US Senator John McCain sent shockwaves through the Khazarian mafia ranks, who are now activating all their resources in a desperate move to save themselves. Thus, this pandemic scare may be something like a schoolboy calling in a bomb threat to a school in order to avoid an exam he's going to fail. However, it's also possible the US military industrial establishment may be preparing pandemic scare as a cover to stop all airline flights worldwide in order to prevent Khazarian mafia from escaping, as over 51,000 sealed indictments begin to be acted upon. Good side of the Rothschild family says Trump will stage financial reset. The deadlock has ended in the undeclared US civil war that lasted all summer, and the good guys have already begun a series of stunning moves against the cabal, including shooting down their secret satellites, multiple sources confirm. Also, a complete recess of the global financial system has already begun, asserts CIA sources connected to the self-described good side of the Rothschild family. And this is just a prelude to what promises to be a very eventful month of September, sources agree. The satellite shoot-down was first reported by the mysterious blogger, Q, and has been independently confirmed by 3 separate sources. Of course it has. On August 30, CIA satellites and supercomputers were taken down and likely seized by US President Donald Trump's new Space Force, and GCHQ, British intelligence, was removed from the NSA database to also render cabal elements in the UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Japan, France, Germany, and Israel deaf and blind, Pentagon sources explained. A CIA source in Asia who was involved in setting up the secret satellite network that was taken down last week was issued the following warning to colleagues. We're in potential danger. I hope your vehicles have fuel and you have emergency food and water on hand. There's no telling who did this or why. And now that some of our satellites are down, God only knows what may be coming at us. Meanwhile, a third source says Nathaniel Rothschild's faction was involved in the shootdown, saying Nat is back in play. He's with us. We are dismantling the Nazi Antarctic global grid of communications. This includes several orbiting satellites, one of which has already been eliminated. The US Civil War stalemate to end soon. Next phase of planetary liberation to begin. The death, probably by execution, of the traitor John McCain signals a new phase in the removal of the criminal cabal as controlled by the US since 1913. Pentagon agency sources agree. Traitor McCain may have been the first death penalty by a military tribunal allowed to die with honor like Rommel to protect the Navy's reputation while spooking the deep state, is how one Pentagon source described the situation. This is an older story than the earlier ones, by the way. The real battle, though, will begin after the US branch of the cabal is removed, and it will pit the US military-industrial complex against a loose Eurasian alliance headquarters in Switzerland and the gnomes of Zurich. This battle will either end in a world war or a complete remake of post-war institutions like the UN, BIS, IMF, EU, etc. The key is the target, the complex of foundations plus the Vatican Bank used by the Khazarian mafia to camouflage the control of the privately owned central banks, the Fortune 500 corporations, and most so-called world leaders. The fireworks should start in September, grab some popcorn, and intensify in the run-up to the US November midterm elections, where the US branch of the Khazarian mafia is hoping to recover its power and remove US President Donald Trump. Yeah, good luck with that. That's a nice overview, I think.
Brilliant, thank you. Should we do question and answers with is there anybody in live stream, or is nobody there listening?
I don't know. We're having a good yarn. How's things, Enigma?
Things are good. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on the back end things here. So far, so good.
Is there any questions from anybody in the chat room, or is nobody there?
I'm looking. There's more comments than anything. I can relay some comments to you. I don't know if there was any questions yet.
Okay, do you want to relay them, Enigma?
So there was some conversation going on a little bit ago about the Collier plan. Something about seeing an end of the Collier plan with the EU, and let's see. It says Count Collier wrote about what is going on now in the 1920s, and the plan was almost in place, and along came Brexit and then the Donald. So that was by Karen Allen. Chris, what do you know about the Collier plan?
I know about it. Isn't it the Zionist Jews' plan to swamp Europe with people from foreign areas, which they've done, and obviously England is a mess. It's a mess, and Germany, France. It's weird, actually. It's weird. It doesn't. It's like there's nowhere. I think, and I like black people, and I like people from Syria a lot, actually. But it seems I do believe that the white man should have a home, and it seems that the white man doesn't have a home. My area where I grew up as a kid, I would have liked to have the memory of that. I would have liked to have gone back to it and, you know, seen the little bra shop where I bought my first bra, my mother. That's gone. It's now a tandoori sweet center. The whole area is either Indian or Pakistani. The whole area. When my mother died, my brother and I were just left a portion of the money. We couldn't afford it. Both of us, says a lot, doesn't it? To buy the house. So it was bought by an Indian guy who split it up into bedsits. And the area where I grew up is just completely black with the black Indian Pakistani culture. So it's not, you know, the shops aren't the ones that I grew up with. They've all gone. And I do feel sad about it because I try and, you know, I would like that memory of it's gone. I mean, it's just completely gone. It's like it's part of Pakistan or part of India. And I do feel a little bit resentful. But they say, I don't know, I do think as well there's a agenda, like every drama you watch on the BBC, and the BBC have put out fantastic drama lately, fantastic drama. And it's always got the white woman, the single middle-aged white woman, or just probably below middle-aged 30s. And they always have a black guy. They always get a black guy to have sex with. And there just seems to be an agenda to get rid of white, to just get rid of white. And I suppose then we go back to this agenda by the, you know, negative alien agenda, as they call it, that we have to look back and say, you know, it's that, you know, there's a war going on, isn't there? There's a war going on. And God knows what's really going on, but that certainly is going on, and it's certainly in place, isn't it? What do you think, Russell?
Yeah, I think everything's just up in the air. I mean, people talked about change in 212, and there's just so many scientific, black technology, three-dimensional things that have been happening in our relevant world, but also other trans-dimensional things that have been happening around it. We see 0.005 of the available light spectrum. You have to multiply it by 2,000 to get 1%. There's things going on now, but we can see with our gut, and I think everybody knows what that is. You can feel energies. You can definitely make up your own mind based on your own instincts and soul. We do have freedom of choice to a degree here, but what's going on with the whole European Illuminati? It is a Eurasian thing. There's elements of the old Chinese dynasties, families in there, and the imperialism of the pumped up. They're being slowly depleted. Theresa May, in all her gawkiness, is trying to offer some pathetic defence of Brexit, hoping that it might fall over. I wouldn't want to watch my back in a bar fight. And Boris hopefully will come over and we'll get it into line. I think Britain was really gutsy to a man and woman to show what they did with Brexit, and that was a big part of this whole push we're currently on now. You know, they led the way, and we can't let them down. And the imperialism, they want to take back to the feudalism states, but they're going to be pushed right back. You know, their funding of the whole Iran BS and drama is being slowly brought to bear. Deutsche Bank, Citibank are being taken down. They'll have their crack at everybody, and they've tried to have a crack at Trump over it, fail. They're going to be pushed back to Brussels, and hopefully the United Nations will follow them. You know, sure, the ideology of them is a good thing, you know, a combined effort by a whole lot of countries together with one potential positive outcome, but they don't see it that way. The deep state and the occult and the dark ones we're up against, everything is inverted. Good's bad, joy's bloody evil. Absolute misery is pure joy, and death is birth to them.
I know, it's awful. It really is awful. England is just, you know, it's a really painful place to be. It's just, it's not nice to live here. You know, life isn't nice. Even, you know, you go in a shop you go in one of the cheapest supermarkets to get food, and, you know, 30, 40 pounds, and you come out with one carrier bag full, and you're not talking about one carrier bag full of smoked salmon and oysters. I mean, you're talking your bog standard working class grub, you know? It's disgusting. I mean, it's really bad. Rents are sky high. I mean, I pay 1,500 for a tiny 2-bedroom flat, and it's not even in London, you know? I mean, this place is awful.
Yeah, it is somewhat oppressive.
And we
Look,
don't really have Russell GB. We don't really have a
Russell's fine, mate.
Thank you. It's so nice there. We don't really have a right wing. We have Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson is, you know, working for the Zionists. You know, he works for Israel, and he's kind of, you know, they thought of his name. Okay, they made up his name, Tommy Robinson. Now, Robinson is from Robinson's Jam, where it was a really cute thing we grew up with. And in the 80s, Robinson's Jam was cozy and it was lovely, strawberry. And then you had Robinson's Orange and Robinson. And it's such a wholesome name, okay? His real name is Stephen Lennon, but no, they used Tommy Robinson. So you got Robinson, which is associated in the British minds with something wholesome and gorgeous, something you can really trust, and something reminds you of a cuddle on Nanny's knee. And then you've got Tommy, of course, the British Tommy. So they made up this name, Tommy Robinson, and he's kind of hijacked these working classes that would normally look at what's going on and look at the Zionist agenda and think, hang on, who is doing this? Why are we having such miserable lives? But they've been hijacked by Tommy. And I shouldn't say this because all of my subscribers are actually Tommy Robinson fans. But yeah, I don't care. And Tommy has taken this swathe of working class people, and he's kind of made them hate Muslims. But Muslims are just being thrown against us as, you know, who's your enemy? You fight them, you retards, you know. But really, they should look at the real picture. But they're just looking at the Muslims courtesy of cuddly Tommy Wholesome Robinson, the leader.
Oh, okay. I haven't we have got myself, speaking for myself over here in Australia, I've got to get up to play with the European situation. I mean, so many things. I don't know enough about the Tommy Robinson story, but I've looked at it, and what you're saying is actually interesting. And this is my opinion, and mine alone, but Islam, pretty stupid. I mean, it's been used as a human wave of meat since Lawrence of Arabia conned them initially in the 20s. And they've been a nice handy force for imperialism to actually physically go up against the deep state's enemies, swords flailing, chanting Allahu Akbar, and being a very handy, useful idiot for, God, what now, 110, 120 years? You know, you've always got these people shouting infidels, and they police their people by saying, you know, they'll basically kill you if you leave. And it's a crap situation for all sides. With Tommy, I reckon his listeners will know you've had rows with them in the past and you don't agree with them. I think they'll appreciate you having the kahunas to state it honestly and realise that, you know, you're willing to take your lumps for your opinion. And if that isn't what we all should be doing, you know, tough.
Well, what about our, you know, in the UK, we have a working class. The girls go into the shops, the boys go into the plumbing, the trades. We haven't got that now because they've thrown 4 million from the Eastern Europe at us. I mean, I just walked round my local Tesco. Everybody was speaking somewhere from Eastern Europe. There was nobody. So all of a sudden, I'd gone from my childhood, which was Pakistan, wiped out by Pakistan, to my adulthood, which is wiped out by Eastern Europe. I didn't hear any English voices. I was magicked away to Poland. And quite frankly, I didn't want to go to Pakistan and I didn't want to go to Poland. We must have a home. We must have a home. We deserve a home. And we deserve jobs for our kids. You know, not all of them are going to pass degrees and exams. Not all of them. They're going to need work. They're going to need the trades. And I mean, like I said to my son, for God's sake, you need a degree, because if not, you're going to the trades, and there's half of Eastern Europe here, you know, grabbing that. And all the sways of the working class that were the feisty fighters have just been duped by Tommy Robinson. Oh, here, look the other way here. Look at the Muslims. The Muslims aren't doing anything. What are they doing? They're not doing anything. Hasn't been a terrorist attack here for a long, long time. If it is, it's extremists. All these Muslims are just getting on with their lives. They've been here for years. It's what it is, and I'm not being racist. It's like the UK is like, I mean, for God's sake, you can't even go from A to B. I was late back for doing this show because I went to the shops. It took me 2 hours. It was gridlock. There's too many people here. What it is, I'm not being racist. I'm sure I would love the Polish if I went to Poland to visit them, you know, and all the other Eastern Europeans that are here. Okay, but they shouldn't be here. They should not be here. And
no, it's compression. It's population compression. They're using population as a weapon.
It's like, you know, when you're on the tube, okay, you're on the tube, you're coming home from work, you're on the tube, and it gets really crushed, and you think, oh God, I can't handle this. And there's some idiot there, like Hazel Football Stadium, some idiot that says, oh, come on, more, come in, more, and you're getting crushed, you can't breathe. That's what the UK is like. It can't take, I mean, why didn't it take all those Syrians because they were suffering and say, okay, Syrians, come here, you're suffering, we'll help you. But no, it took 4 million Eastern Europeans. Why did it do that? You know, and then, there's no room for any Syrians who we'd attack their country and did those fake chemical attacks, and so we could do what we want out there to get the oil or whatever it was. You know, why can't we take them? Why can't we take the kids? We didn't take these poor kids that were floating around. But we take loads of people from Eastern Europe, you know?
Yeah, the people that instigated this are now shaking in their boots, and they're hastily trying to cover their ass. What Britain did, and look, pretty much everybody that voted for Brexit, in my somewhat naive opinion, feels the same way you did, right? And you just expressed right there. It's not about hating people from another country or anything. Look at Australia. Some of the most Aussiest here are Chinese, and even the Vietnamese who have come over here, they all have one of the biggest Greek city outside of Athens is Melbourne. And they just add to the place, you know. But there has been your troublemakers here, but I won't go into it. But you know, always watch the magician's other hand. And if the Illuminati can get something to throw at you with a bit of glamour, and watch the hand that's under the table.
But didn't we hear, I mean, online there's somebody saying about, you know, the Europeans can't expect Europe to be like it was, like Paris, you know, so like the left bank where the writers went, and it was so beautiful, and, you know, the England and, you know, these countries, the Europeans can't expect it to be like that anymore. It's not like that anymore for us. It's not like that anymore. It's gone. I mean, you come here and it's all it's a culture. It's cultures that shouldn't be here, really. And I can't see any Muslims. I mean, why are we got Muslims?
Right. I understand that. I can see a couple of both sides. I think the Muslim Brotherhood is rife in internal annex, you know, quite high up in English politics, the same as they're weeding them out now. Deep state Muslim Brotherhood operatives in America. I think it's the Mir situation, the Sharia court situation. Not that people say there's no Sharia courts, but there's a Sharia situation in London. I think all that needs to be addressed, and somewhere all along we've got to find concentric circles and common bonds with each other, because this isn't going to take, you know, many fingers make a fist. If they separate those fingers, they'll snipe you one at a time. It's not that we all have to be kumbaya and believe each other's theories and what's going on. We just have to cohese and face the enemy, because these are shifty bastards, and they have been for thousands and thousands of years. You know,
Then we go back, Russell. Then we go back to this. What Collier is saying about these different fathers we've got, aren't we? Just like races with different different fathers. We come from different groups, and really we have to have our own lands. And isn't there maybe one particular domineering ET influence that says, actually, I want it all for myself? And aren't they putting in place an agenda? So we can't fight back. And it seems like they want the white man watered down. Obviously, they want their women to have sex with black men, the Kardashians. Oh, it's sexy, black men sexy. Every goddamn drama you watch. And having sex with a black man, you know, and it's like, God, they're better in bed. And white men, who wants one of them? Get yourself a black man, girls. And it's like, you know, if I was younger, I'd probably think, oh, I'm going to date a black man because it's trendy. So it's like, I feel the agenda is to get rid of the blue-eyed blonde race, don't you? I mean, it is.
I think you're onto it, but it's also a lot more macro than that. What's happening is the deep state control pretty much everything you see on public TV. If it's not independent or basically coming off the net or from IRL studio, it's crap, because they're going to be right pushing their agenda. Over here, you've got Channel 9, which is associated with the Fairfax family, which run the Sydney Morning Herald, and they hate Trump's guts. They're pushing Bonnie Prince William bloody stories and his dopey wife and Harry stories about 5 or 6 times a week, adoringly, like making some deities out of these goofballs. Look, imperialism is dead. The Illuminati is dead. It's in its death throes. It's been forced to cannibalize each other. The agnostic Illuminati, the religious Illuminati, the banking arm, and all that. We won. This is a victory time for us. A lot of what you talk about with population, mate, I know you're not a racist. And look, I'm going to use pretty strong language here, but and my apologies, but an asshole is an asshole. And I don't care what race, creed, color, black, white, brindle, what bed they sleep in, what they do in their bedrooms, their own business. I just want them to believe in a truthful, transparent existence. And what's been happening here is the whole system has been duped. And what the population floodwater you're talking about, that balloon's going to be pricked, the pressure will be released, and these people will be able to return back to their own countries and make some sense of living. They're going to use, a lot of the Poles are sleeping in their trucks for $200 a week, separated from their families. They're getting tortured too. They need to free themselves, same as other countries are doing. Trump, the Q team, QAnon team, and a lot of facets in play are enabling that now. They're enabling countries to take themselves back, but it's not going to happen in a year or two.
Exactly. I heard from a Polish lady that you know, Poland had imported cheap labor from the Ukraine, and they'd taken all their jobs, so they came here.
Yeah, they're just playing checkers with people's lives.
What?
You're just herding human waves of population around in order to pressure and meet their social agenda, because the Illuminati and the European, the Euro creeps hate sovereignty. They don't even like rugby and soccer, sorry, football teams representing their area. They'd rather call them by some Roosters or some name. They don't call them, you know, the Edinburgh Roosters or anything anymore. It's all a media, and it's at you 24/7, folks, along with a lot of occult sigils that are hidden and advertising everything. I mean, they can keep you in an alpha state, which is easiest to put across you, and keep your brain hum down to a certain level. Not only will they get advertising influxes into you, though, they will get sigils that you don't realize are going on, spells within images. These things happen. It's just science.
Exactly, Russell. Exactly. Even young girls are getting their bums made bigger. I mean, there's so many girls have died. They're going out to Turkey. They want to look like Kardashians. They want to have a black man. They want to get their bums made bigger, and they're dying.
I bet a lot of saying they got it done but didn't. Sorry.
Oh, it's funny. Mine's too.
Yeah, I know, it's disgusting, Chris.
That's crazy. One thing it was the boobs, now it's the bums. I mean, yeah, the Kardashians, they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. They're gorgeous.
Do you think so?
They look good. I want to be one too, you know, but we're not, you know, get over it.
No, they've put themselves through a moulding process. I think they look, yeah, they're not my type of a beautiful woman, but, you know.
I do think I do understand about how women want to look like them, and they're having the lifestyle, and they really do know how to rock, you know, the lifestyle. I mean, that mother, the Chris one, she's in her 60s. She's gorgeous. I mean, they do know how to rock the. They don't just lay around, you know. They go out and do stuff, and they're great. They're exciting. They're sexy. Of course,
they're very much a part of the excuse my language, the higher ranks of the Hollywood Illuminati that you talk about. They're right on up there, mate.
I know Jennifer Lawrence. I'm not telling because I love them so much. You're not going to speak about my beloved Kim. Just joking. What about? I couldn't believe I watched. I watched a Jennifer Lawrence. I like Jennifer Lawrence, and somebody said to me, "Oh, she's really high up Illuminati. You shouldn't watch any of her films." I watched that film Mother, and I got sucked in by it because I like beautiful houses. It's a beautiful house. It's decorated in your Farrow and Ball Paris grey paints, and so I was watching it because of that. And it's got, you know, Xavier Bardem, and he's gorgeous, and it degenerated into they killed a baby, you saw its remains, and then they ate the baby. And I just thought, how dare you lead me into Satanism? I mean, think it doesn't matter. It's just
shouldn't think
horror. They led me into Satanism by watching it.
Oh yeah, and you see the amount of people there who are just chewing their cud and watching TV and want a bit of entertainment. They'll see that, they'll read into it. They'll believe the belief pattern that's put forward, the agenda and the sigils, and boom. It doesn't mean their head's going to turn around and they'll start with the bean soup stuff. But what it does, it affects society as a whole. You know, I'm 53. I can remember the days when we did throw frisbees around at the park on a Sunday and drink dozens of beers, and you know, there was no internet. It was just rock and roll gigs every night and going to the park on a Sunday in your jeans and trying to swim in a river like an idiot in the 70s, 80s, whatever.
I know, exactly. And it's like when I watched that, I felt raped. I'd seen Satanism. That Satanism as a baby, it's a sacrifice to Moloch, obviously, the eating the babies. And
yep.
Saw it, and I felt dirty. I felt dirty for weeks after, and I would have seen that Jennifer Lawrence bitch. I would have, I just would have swung for her, you know, because I only watched it because of her, and I was led into it. And you know, Aquino, when I had that experience where I was abducted by him. He came back for me after that. He wanted me to drink something. So there's something in, and I know you know about that, Russell, that eating and what. He tried to get me to drink something, and he said, just drink that. And I said, no, I'm not going. He said, join us. No, I'm not going to drink it. I said, what is it? He said, angel's blood. And I said, no, I'm not going to drink it. And then he said, you know, your son, we could do this to him. We could do that to him. So I goes, okay, I'll drink it if he doesn't get touched. And so I drank it, and I spat it out. But I mean, I don't know. We watched them eat a dead baby. The baby got smashed on the floor. They ate the dead baby. What is it with the eating, Russell? Can you explain that to the listener, please?
It's about soul ingestion. I want to eat your soul. I mean, all movies in Hollywood that carry their church creed, you know, there's high law, and high law says that everything must come out into the light. This is a creator law. This is way above them. This is, even if they are trans-dimensional entities, there's a boss. And their way of doing it through movies is through metaphor and different interpretation. And it's a form of witnessing and their religion to them, mocking us, and communication. It's a lot of it's the same as somebody standing in a street corner saying, repent. They see as much joy in that and in the way they can slip their messages through. But we've been, deciphering those for years now, for a decade or two. But it comes from consuming the soul's energy. They can get their whack off it with adrenal chrome, which is different panic juices, for want of a better description. But Arizona Wilder said it helps them hold their state when they are trying to be in this 3D realm, underground bases and all that, bearing in mind. It also, there's humans that of course take this as well. So yeah, it's sheer evil, mate. It's sheer. Babies are bred from mothers who have no identity to babies that have no identity. They're bred for sheer sacrifice and ritual sacrifice. And this has to be fronted up, like Q says. Now, I take a lot of lead from the QAnon team. I believe they were there before the Trump presidency. He's their boy. But that's my opinion. But there's a lot to be taken from the wisdom that's coming from this team. And they're trying to ready people for the sheer, stark, disbelieving horror that it can take place through people with this frame of mind. And I say people very loosely.
Exactly, well said, because we go back now to what we said at the beginning of the show, and actually we're coming to the end of the show, that it's this negative alien agenda. It's these, what do we all do? Do we find out who is our particular seeders who kind of made us and then fight for, my son tonight was talking about these people in America, and he said Sons of Odin were doing a march, and it's like, well, who is Odin represent? It's like who are those particular gods? It's like we all have different gods, and it's like we're fighting for this planet. I do believe we're fighting for this planet.
It's the chicken and the egg stuff. And I'll tell you what, the transdimensional malevolent entities that run the show were around before pretty much any creatures were around here. And we're just a bonobo chimp mix. And I'm talking about the vessel. This thing that we walk around in is a bipedal spacesuit, and it's used on a lot of places. We're under an electromagnetic net. It'll zap us. We will not get what we're due as access to the Akashic records. We will not get the life term we have at the moment. There's a lot of crap things going on that goes very deep and questionable too. People can go, oh, that's crap, but really, fair enough. There's a whole range of things that are happening from way up high in the ether to way down below levels that we're on now. And the good guys are winning. Yahoo.
Yeah, I hope so. I know you're in Australia and it's gorgeous and the people are nice, and I'm stuck somewhere. And I know you said to me the other day that it was, I think you said something like Draco Central, London. I was right on. Draco.
Well, it is really, if you think about it in an energy sense. We've got a good story here. Can I quickly read a bit of this out? I won't read it all because it's a long story, but I like this dude, and he's got some very relevant things to say about demonic entities. Can I read out a bit and we can have a quick talk about it?
Yeah, sure.
Scrolling. Here we go. Professor who spent 25 years viewing exorcisms say they're real, and so is evil. He's heard the voices speak in ancient Greek. He's heard them speak in Latin. Dr. Richard Gallagher says they converse in Chinese, Spanish, French, and they're wildly smart and manipulative. The voices in the language come out of people, he says, but they're not actually human. They're demons. They're real, and so is evil, he says. Demonic possession exists, and he has seen it firsthand. They're fallen angels, Dr. Gallagher tells DailyMail.com. This is what I literally believe. They're extremely bright. They're much brighter than humans. They've been around for millennia, so they speak all languages. I've heard them speak Chinese. I've heard them speak ancient Greek, which I studied, says the former Princeton classics major. I've heard them speak and understand Latin. The spirits do it, the psychiatrists say, probably to freak out or show off, to boast. The most striking thing about Dr. Gallagher before he starts to describe the demons is his imposing 6'5" frame, and the psychiatry professor stands in the doorway of his office, blah, 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 New York, blah, 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 files and papers. Hold on. Scrolling. In his 60s, Dr. Gallagher's long limbs are clad in a blue blazer and khakis. He's extremely guarded about his own details, saying only that he has a family and siblings. He estimates he's treated 25,000 patients over the years. Not one who walked through his door was actually possessed. Instead, the cases he's seen of possession and oppression, which is different and involves demons harassing an individual rather than taking control of them, he says, have all been referred to him, usually by exorcists. He's not even sure how it started a quarter of a century ago. I didn't volunteer particularly to get involved in this stuff. Funny, that's an offset thing to people who are involved in doing good work. But evaluating people with possession demonic attacks, says the New York native, who has written a forthcoming book about the subject. I was just asked to do it and maybe thought I was open-minded or whatever. Probably people knew I was practicing Catholic, but I never volunteered for it. The first case he saw involved a victim of oppression, a Hispanic housewife and mother from the American West who was being assailed by demons. She was incredibly devout and charitable Catholic, Dr. Gallagher tells Daily Mail. But that exact holiness can sometimes open the door for an attack by evil. She and her husband both swore that they would be lying in bed and all of a sudden she would have the feeling of being assaulted by evil spirits and bruises would appear on her body. So I needed to do a medical workup. I needed to make sure she didn't have some clotting difficulty or something like that. She appears to have a wonderful, devout, charitable person, he says, calling this woman and her husband salt of the earth people. I just came to believe the story, and I can't say I knew a lot at the time about cases, and a lot of people, including myself, tend to call the case oppressions. Your thoughts, mate? When I say Draco taxis or when I say vexed, that's what I mean.
Oh, yeah, of course. I've heard you speak about it. So many times before. Exactly. But where, with this negative alien agenda, where do the fallen angelic fit in?
Well, you know, the late Phil Schneider said the alien agenda and the New World Order are one and the same.
Exactly, yeah.
I'll get that lecture for you. They killed him on the 13th time, rubber ligature around his neck 3 times from a man who only had 3 fingers on his back. And a full armory in his house, basically, and a chemist shop full of pills. He could have killed himself in many different ways, and he was in a wheelchair. So, you know, I believe in what a lot of the info Phil Schneider put across, especially because there's so many trolls trying to debunk him and carry on. They really can't. He had a Q clearance. He had a Q Rhyolite clearance, one of the 28 above POTUS's level. And you have to strip naked and get weighed in and out, and anything down to the microgram, you're busted. So, you know, this guy, anyway, had a lot of facts, but that's what he said. The alien agenda and the New World Order are one and the same. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. They're just the bodies of humans, aren't they? And they're running the show, really.
Well, there's a train of thought that goes that the bloodlines that were initially sent out to Europe from Egypt after the last hybridizing process for this series of bloodlines went out, I think, before the Rameses period, which was more controlled by the good guys. But I don't know that either. That's, again, hypothetical. And, you know, Egypt started with blood sacrifice. It wasn't always, you know, gold adornment and all that. And it was a pretty evil place in a lot of ways. And its influence was from off-world, serious off-world. And its influence was from the Anunnaki off-world. And high priests were taken prisoner and tortured, and certain facts were got out of them. I mean, the Kabbalah is a 1,000-word book. You're not allowed to read it until you're over 40, and you've got to be a male. But, you know, they say it was MC squared and everything is coded in its pages. So
I wonder what the fallen angelic think of the reptilians.
Well, some say the fallen angelics are the ones who were sent to vanquish the reptilians and ended up climbing on board, and they were punished. because the reptilians were breaking high law. They were engineering humans and kidnapping souls and placing them in Terran spacesuits and putting them to work and killing them off and sending them back. Quite a good scam.
Oh, you mean that the fallen angelic went to conquer them and got sucked in?
Well, yeah, they ended up wanting what the bad guys got. And people call it reptilian or Draco, and these are just names, handles for a very, very malevolent entity that considers us cattle and has rights over us. Yeah.
Exactly. These names are so stupid because they don't work. It's like my goddamn hamster knowing what one of my paintings is. His brain is never gonna know who did one of my paintings. Do you know what I mean? So our little minds can't really grasp the big picture. We've got these silly little names, but really the reality of it is far surpassing what our little minds can comprehend.
Well, to a degree. I mean, we've got a functional brain that helps us watch the Kardashians and get to the chemist and get our groceries each week and like breathe and wake up and stuff. But if we needed the mind that our soul source requires, we'd have to have a head the size of a city block. And it's just not going to hold up on our tiny little legs.
Yeah, exactly. We have, yeah, we're silly, aren't we? We're just kind of
Well,
silly.
we denied that.
Silly.
We're 99.8% bonobo chimp, for God's sake.
I know, we're dragged, we're dragged around. I mean, the whole of the UK was tied up last week with watching The Bodyguard. It was on the front page of various newspapers at different times. And it was like, everyone, get home to watch it. And I just thought we're so jigged about like little puppets, you know. The state wants us to watch that. I don't know why.
We'll have to get onto it. I've got a synopsis for the first 3 episodes down there we could read through, but I basically got the gleam that it's your PTSD soldier coming back from a tour. And he meets up and he's reluctant to get hooked up with this pointy-nosed Secretary of State who's anti-Muslim and anti-this and anti-that because, you know, he's the veteran with a heart who is actually a left-wing. Come on, you know. And then, you know, blah, 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 and they bonk and blah, blah, blah. She gets blown up in episode 3. I mean, there is serious bloody socio-engineering going on in it, yeah. And of course, yeah, get out and watch it. It's cutting edge.
I don't understand.
Well, you know, if he was a vet, you know, don't put some chiseled, good-looking guy up there. You know, put a bit of reality into it. You know, and all the PTS issues. They don't spend any time. I don't know. I haven't watched it, so really, I'm just talking out my bum. So sorry.
I thought it was really weird the way they killed off the woman. So we were all watching it for the great sex because obviously he was like screwed up and hadn't really had sex in ages. She was gorgeous and powerful. And suddenly they had sex. So we as an audience were wanting to see, oh, what's going to happen? And they bizarrely killed off the woman. And then they did front page stories in the newspapers there going, oh, yeah, we had to kill off the woman. It just seems like, I don't know, what are they trying to do to us? It's
no wonder they didn't try and get Negan and hitting her on the head with a bat. I mean, it's just socio-engineering. The whole thing with The Walking Dead, for example, was pure Mengele. Joseph Mengele mind control. And people don't even know about Mengele and his methods. You know, the puppet shows he'd put on in the yards for officers watching, where he'd attach electrodes to the kids and make them electrocute them to weird angles and call it the puppet show. You know, what he did and how he locked people away and how he was I am you, you are me stuff, to the point where The Walking Dead was going, I am Negan. You know, it was just full on Mengele mind control. It was nothing informing about it. It was just molasses for the masses, and it was unhealthy. I like the show,
exactly.
though.
As you know, after I visited the first serial killer, Ian Brady, I then visited a second serial killer, Kenneth Bianchi, with an American serial killer, the Hillside Strangler, Angelo Bono, Kenneth Bianchi. Now, Bianchi was the lead killer. It wasn't Bono. He was older. Bianchi was the main man. He's absolutely demon-soaked. But what was interesting, in one of the altars in Brady, I heard a Nazi, I called him Doctor, he had an altar that was a Nazi who tortured his victims. He used drowning, he used different kinds of methods. Bianchi used injection with bleach, he used gassing, and I again heard in Bianchi this same doctor. And then when I studied I didn't know about it. I wrote a book about the two killers. I called it In for the Kill. I felt that I had ripped off my reader because there was no conclusion at the end. But then an American girl approached me and told me about Monarch Mind Control. She said she thought it was done to me. And of course, I grew up in an orphanage like Brady and Bianchi. And I was like, oh, hang on, I've been spying on the Real IRA, shagging the commander of the Real IRA, the officer commanding. What was going on? But then, interestingly, I got Fritz Springmeier on my radio show, and he told me about Mengele. And I said, what about these serial killers that seem to have this like Nazi doctor personality? And he said, well, Mengele put himself inside the programs, and he wanted,
yes, he did.
all over, the people saying, I am Negan. Literally, these serial killers are Mengele. They're not them. There's no Ian Brady. There's no Kenneth Bianchi. They're Mengele. Do you see?
Yeah, I do. That whole thing just reeked of Mengele, and as I was watching it, as I was seeing the whole thing, they kicked it off into the public idiom with the extreme. Did you see the Negan situation where he killed off the characters abruptly with a baseball bat?
I didn't watch it after that.
Yeah, well, the whole thing went into serious Mengele shit. And it was hard to watch, actually. Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, you're right. Once they suck us in, they can take us wherever they want. And they sucked. I was sucked in by The Walking Dead. It's the writing. Now, I'm a writer, and I write novels as well. I watch things like that, and I know. Okay, it's not just me being envious. I know that that's helped by higher entities. It is beyond good. So when I'm watching something that's beyond good, I know that it's being helped by, it's been helped by ET. It's been helped by obviously they're brilliant. And, the same with this series that we're watching. I don't know where it's going to take us now, but they've whacked out the woman. We're all watching it for the sexual part. We were. I mean, I couldn't even really be bothered watching the end of she was dead. I thought, well, for God's sake, it's going to be all about politics now. And there's 2 more episodes, so it'll be interesting where that's going to take us.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, mate. I'm just scrolling, and my computer's in complete chaos. Give us a sec here. Dropped my mic over my mouse and my keyboard fell out. At least I didn't spill coffee on my keyboard like I did a couple of months ago. That was a nightmare.
Oh, I'm going to have to round up in a minute because I've got a chicken casserole with my name on in the oven.
There you go. It's funny how they turn out with their name on them, isn't
it? Yeah.
Look, I know we've been talking about a lot of dark stuff, and people find this woo-woo and totally cool. But there are dark forces at play here, but there's also really, really, really good forces at play, and they're winning. And everybody here that's part of the QAnon movement and part of it supporting Trump know what I'm talking about. They feel it. It's something that comes across their mind in the morning, I reckon. They know what's behind this, and they know what's spiriting along, even if they can't put a finger on it. So rest easy, everyone. Good stuff is happening, and it's a 12-rounder because these guys, they'll spit and hiss all the way down the hole, but down the hole they go.
I'm different from, oh God. As you know, I slightly disagree with you, and I think that, it's going to get a lot darker before it lightens up, and I think that, we should all pick up weapons.
Oh yeah, it's no kumbaya down the road. This is a crap fight. This is a bar brawl, and it's you've got the right bloke at the helm in America for it. You just need to have somebody with a couple of stones in UK. I think Boris could be the guy at the moment. Where you don't want to. In my opinion, Europe to cow down to Juncker and all these slime balls. They're FIFA without the soccer, and that's all they are. They're carpet strolling lizards. I know that word's badly used, but that's just the type of personality they are. And they worship mammon, money. They worship their 3D existence, and they're willing to crap on anybody to get what they want, even though they're at the end of their tether, life-wise. But there's a lot of bad things going on. But what's happening is good. I mean, things are being dismantled. That's why I like the whole QAnon movement myself personally. I know you haven't followed it. I believe it. It's got its knockers. That's okay. I just think we've all got to learn to face the enemy and stop attacking each other and get on with it. And I've got to take a leaf out of that book too. I've been a wee bit quick to jump down people's throats, but I think we all stick to our lanes and we get on with the job, and we're all going to do fine.
Exactly. I hope so. So I want to thank you, Russell, for coming on and co-hosting, and Enigma for setting everything up, and everyone for listening. And I hope you'll join us next week at the same time. I think we've run for 2 hours, which I've enjoyed myself. I'm just starving, but I've enjoyed myself. And thank you, Russell, for everything. Thank you, Enigma.
You're most welcome,
champion. Enigma. Cheers. Thank you so much, mate. You're making a lot of things possible even over these last 6 months, a year. And what you've got cooking, mate, is fantastic. I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you're doing. And this is part of kicking the ball down the road, part of the 12-rounder, and you're playing a huge role in it, mate. Everybody here loves you and what you're doing. And you've got a hard study period ahead of you with your studies, and you've got a desk full. And if people knew the effort that you put in, it's freaking superhuman. So thanks, buddy.
You're welcome. Thanks. And like I couldn't do it without all of you. And then Chris, I appreciate you wanting to have your show here, and I'm looking forward to each and every week.
Thank you. It should be good. I enjoyed today. I had fun. The 2 hours has gone really quickly.
Yeah, it does go fast.
Time is spinning too fast.
Was really good. Thanks so much for sharing all of your insight and knowledge.
Well, thank you. I love your accents. They're so gorgeous, all of them, aren't they? Is that Kilroy? Thank you, Kilroy.
That's our Kilroy, mate. She is a machine. She's a research machine, and she really knows her stuff. And you've got a lot of the people here are amazing, and you'll get to know all of them. And they've got amazing stories, amazing insight, and they're all talented in their own right. A lot of specialists here.
Where are they all from? Where is Kilroy from? Is that an American accent I heard?
Kilroy's American? I'm not sure.
Yes, okay. I'm in the middle of the country, in the Midwest.
How is it going on with that hurricane? That's over the east, though, isn't it?
Yes. Well, it won't bother us. It will send us rain, but it won't affect our lives per se. My parents are on the East Coast, and it's starting to hit them now. But it's just high winds and rain expected. But our prayers are with the people who are on the eastern shoreboard, and we have to, remember that there is 600,000 without power.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible. I can't believe that.
Yeah, I just saw a tweet come out that Trump has already released the funds to take care of it. So
it's absolutely awful, and all those poor people that are just, you know, had to leave their homes, and, you know, prayers with them.
Yes, we do send our prayers for them, but those people are made of tough stuff. They've weathered these exact storms before, so.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you.
Well, we covered heaps. I had a lot of news stories down there, but we can get to them some other time, Chris. There's a lot happening in Britain, a lot happening with the Vatican.
I saw them. They look really good. We could do them next week. So, I mean, they will keep.
Yeah, I will do a heap. We'll do a heap, and involving mind control and MK and Britain, and Resignation has got a show on coming soon on the live stream. I think you'll want to listen to too. I'm going to keep an ear out for it. It's coming up soon in the next 12 to 20 hours. He's in Germany.
Oh, right, cool, German, excellent. I'm gonna shoot off now. I'm gonna dig into just an amazing casserole I cooked earlier. So, thank you everyone for listening and taking part.
Great having a chat, mate. Hey, Black and Blue, how are you?
Hey, dumbbell.
Okay, so again, the Resignation show tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be spending probably about an hour, maybe a little over an hour, and I believe Gran Torino will be joining Resignation on the show tomorrow, and Kilroy will be here as a moderator. And then coming up next week, we have our regularly scheduled Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, and then Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. So we're starting to fill up the week. We're getting a lot of shows coming in, and I appreciate all the hard work everybody's putting into it. And again, kudos out to Chris. It was an excellent show today. Dumbbell, you did a great job with co-hosting. So we're gonna get ready to let Chris go eat, and I'm gonna get to studying.
Cheers, mate. And thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks, Chris. I'll see you guys later.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Take care, everybody.
Protection will lead to great prosperity and strength. I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down. America will start winning again, winning like never before.